Hey there, real quick. I just wanted to kind of walk you through this section as well. There's a few things on here that are important to get for you to get the whole picture here. So take a look on the right. This is the electromagnetic section. This one in the next page. Now, on the right on this movie, we have our visible light spectrum. If you take a look there, you see how little it is as far as the entire electromagnetics. That is all we can see from 350 nanometers to 700. That's our entire rainbow. That's what's reflected off things. That's what we see. Everything else is invisible to us. So if we can't see it, it's not necessarily here. It might be that when you speed up to a certain point, it vanishes out of our octave, kind of like let's say our magnetic field, for instance. It is not here, not invisible light. So, but take a look here. I just pulled it up to a spot I want you to take a look at. Just take a look at there, and then as this goes, we're gonna kind of see how it works. So as the electricity goes up and down right there, the magnetism is going to follow it. So you can't really have one without the other. Okay? That one of those two dots is the light, or I'm sorry, electricity. The other one's magnetism. Together they work, and they get involved. They can be over the top of each other, different frequencies. This is how, they go over the top of each other all the time with our cell phones, with our radio, with any of that. Now I'm going to put this on pause, and we can go right below it. There's a few other things I don't want you to miss. What is important here is that this purple thing that looks like two inverted cups with a bar in the middle, it's a plasma discharge from CERN, and that is the top countries in the planet working together to bring all of our technology together to come up with our top science. And they just came out with that. If you look just to the right of it, that's a hieroglyphic from thousands and thousands of years ago. And I think it's pretty similar. And you look a little bit more over to the right, this is what's important coming into this age here, which I think a lot of us are kind of ignoring, where, the ancients, they were very smart, and they wanted us to know two things, and it was, the end of the new time, the new age, 2012, we can call it whatever we want. But nobody said it was going to end the world, and there's going to be a flaming apocalypse coming over the horizon and wipe everybody off. Nobody said that. That was just the new age when it clicked over into new events. In fact, biblically, it even is told that there's 1,260 days when Satan passes, or the dragon, and it leaves and it comes back. I'm going to touch base on this a little bit more in the Antichrist area. I believe it's very important to the times that are coming into right now, because if you go back 1,260 days from today, you are in 2012. Anyway, if you look at the duck, that actually dictates the end time, terror, or death for Christianity. But if you go to like the Hindu, it's not necessarily a bad thing, and you can't just knock Hindu and say they're wrong or Christianity's right. Really, if you look at everything from a different perspective, it's one big happy family. You need a beginning to have an end, and you need an end to have a fresh start, and it's part of life. It's a circle of life. We go through these events all the time. But I want you to look at this, the shape of that duck, how it looks like a triangle pointing down, or a genie lamp. Now, if you look at the body of that guy, in his shape, if the female energy is actually like an upside down pyramid, it's pointing down, if the male end is pointing up. And it has to go through each other to gain its power. I mean, you can't. It has to push off something. Now, if you look as I scroll down, we have, you know, bunches of these little things that are all similar from around the world. You zoom in there and take a look. Here's another little clip I want you to see, because this is really important that you understand, you know, how this is all the way from atoms to planets. You know, I call it from below is above, or above is below. But just take a look here. I screen forward, and if you look, these are non-magnetic steel balls that, you know, they're ferromagnetic. They go in there, or I believe they might even be stainless steel. And you can watch the movie; it explains. And where they all click in that little orbit. And if you look, there's these spaces between them, and that's because of the electromagnetic field. And just like in atoms, they go in little field marks where you'll get, you know, 2 or 8, or, you know, these electrons in these bands. That is how these balls are moving between those two magnets. Now, that red magnet those poles are both a north and a south pole, monopolar. They did figure that out. And if you see right here, as they fly into each other, they do not touch, but they get close. Now, I'm going to skip forward right here. You can watch more of that yourself. I don't want to take up all this time. Now, you see these matching sets. We got a big one and a small one. And let's consider that large one the sun, and the small one is Earth. And now I'm just gonna let you watch this for a second while we're talking. But they right there. Okay, now as the poles get wider and wider, it pushes the small one out. They're not touching. That's their magnetic field. It's going out the poles, the large one, and through the little one. And the wider it gets, the further it pushes out. This is why Jupiter is further in than Saturn, even though it's bigger, because Saturn's rings are wider and it pushes the magnetic field higher. And if you look right here, they do not have to be even magnetic. Just like the Earth, it is not magnetic, and it is locked into a field. It depends on the size and where you're located in your magnetic field, how far out in the planetary mark that we are. This is an issue, and this is why I can, you know, say with confidence that Mars and Mars's scar, and that it's damaged, and that we're, you know, it being smaller than us and further out, there's something wrong. But that every civilization in the entire planet calls Mars the god of war. They all know about the scar. We got to that in the last section there, and I think that's very important. Also, there was the time before the moon, and the Egyptians called it out. There's plenty of places that did. There is also something that I want to show you, and I will add that in if you later on. I'll add that in, but the actual evidence and proof on it. But I want to talk about it real briefly. Now, I have reports, you know, that there's this neutron star. It's coming in. Some of us call it Planet X, but it is trailing around with it. Or Nibiru, it's trailing around with it a giant cloud. Now, the neutron stars are extremely dense. They call it gravity, spinning 700 times a second. It's also called Hercules, and that really ties in. You'll notice in the next section when we talk about how powerful and strong. The magnetics are on the properties, the elements of the devil there. But Hercules, very strong. Magnetics, very strong. You know, look how fast it spins. What it pulls, it doesn't really show light. It came to Mars, it's caused a big shock. It took its water, and the reason that that's important, and the reason that it's carrying that red cloud, is because the two properties that are going to be red are going to be iron and magnetics. And it took it, and I believe that the scar happened by it getting too close to it, popping that. When you push two magnets together, there's friction against each other, and it popped away from it. And those here we go back to those two things that they're trying to show us. If you know what you're looking at, it's all over. I mean, right here on the top left side of these pictures as we go down, that's a torus, and that's a magnetic field, and that's what the very first, argumentatively, that the very first hieroglyphic ever shown was that shape right there, 70,000 years ago. And right to the right of it, we have the beetle. Obviously, that is very similar. If you look at it, the colors are even the same. Below it to the left, we have, that's a Tesla coil. To the right of that, we have the apple. This is another. I mean, if you go down it, these are all symbols of magnetics that are just not spoken of like that. We have the Crab Nebula, very same shape. It's holding the entire galaxy together. Their nebula galaxy. Now, if you know how the energy waves coincide, just like we looked at the top, when the electricity is moving, the magnetism is created. You can't have one without the other. It's a product when it moves. And so that being said, there has to be both. Fundamentals, the properties are the same. We have light, obviously we have a magnetic field. If you saw on the cover page, I did have on the home screen, the magnetic field is flipping. It makes sense. Take a look. Anybody can check it with their own compass. Now, it's not really a wave that goes up and down. It actually spirals. Now, like we were just talking, the male and female, one spins clockwise, one spins counterclockwise. They have to mate. They come into a cone. Let me scroll up here real fast. If we look right here on the bottom left, you see as those planes, they cross in different directions, and that's how matter is made. When these electromagnetic fields, they cross under different frequencies. They come from the stars. They come, as we travel around the zodiacs, we have stronger ones at times. We have weaker ones at times. They cross at different points as we move. So as they're sending out their signal, we're going to get these at different times. And what I find really neat, I'm going to pop up on this slide screen here for a second. Exactly the cones going inside of each other. And then if you look at this picture on the just a little bit right of that, we have it looks like a diamond on top of a pyramid, and he's holding a circle. Well, if you really look into it, that is it's a fractional of a wave. As you can break these down just like an octave, or with sound or music, you can break down these frequency waves into 3 or sometimes 2.5, and it's just like that, where this little diamond on top, if that bottom pyramid was finished up and it was whole, it would be 3 of the diamonds on top of it, and it would fit right in. So the duck, we have the apple, the nebula, the falcon, we have the beetle, we have the apple again. But there's just so many of them, and I did have them on the front page for you to take a look at when you entered. But you're going to see that shape. You're going to notice it a little bit more. But they knew it, and they knew what it was, and this is something that is new to us, in the last 50 years, and for them to know it thousands of years ago, what else did they know? Thanks.